All right. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law and the governor's March 15th order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place due to the outbreak of the coronavirus, this meeting of the Town of Berlin Board of Selectmen will be conducted by a remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time. The Town of Berlin will use best efforts to post an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting on the town's webpage, the town's YouTube channel. Approved minutes will be posted to mytowngovernment.org. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to attend the virtual meeting may attend via the Zoom webinar platform in one of two ways, with both audio and video access or by telephone audio only. Should any board member have technical difficulties and/or lose access to the meeting will recess for a period of time to see whether access can be restored. If not, the meeting will be continued to another date agreed to by a majority of the board or adjourned until our next scheduled meeting. All righty. Call this meeting to order at 7:01.
Yay.
So is Margaret.
Margaret has not managed to join us yet. Oh.
Okay. Well, we have approval of the Thursday, September 17th open session, the coffee talk.
Yep.
Minutes. Did y'all get a chance to read it?
Yep. They look fine to me.
Ditto.
Okay. Motion to approve?
So moved.
And seconded.
Okay.
We have to let Mary catch up. Okay.
Okay. So let's take a vote. Keith, aye.
Stone eye.
Hawkins, aye.
And is she having difficulty?
Yep.
Yeah, we'll just keep going without her. We don't need her just yet.
Gonna say we've done the easy stuff. Now we get into more. But you're right. I think we could, as long as Dave feels comfortable presenting without Margaret here, I think that should be fine.
Well, do we need to do the correspondence, Chris, about Garth?
Yes. I didn't know whether to read the letter or just ask you all if you'd gotten a chance to read the letter of correspondence.
Yeah.
Yeah. What?
No, I have read it and I don't accept it, but I will.
Right. I was gonna say.
You know.
Do you want to make changes to it first?
No. I'm saying I don't want him to go.
Right. There's a letter.
That's-
There's a thank you letter in the piece.
Yeah. I don't know if I can get to it.
I have it up.
Okay. This is a letter of acceptance of resignation submitted by the town webmaster, Garth Coleman, effective October 31st. Scott, do you want to read it?
Sure. We have received a resignation as town webmaster effective October 31st, 2020. We accept a resignation with regret this evening. We also want to pause to give a thanks for your long-running service to this great town. From the time of your appointment in April 2012, you have worked tirelessly to assist employees and volunteers alike with clear, concise messaging on the town's website with the website address. Your website was so lovely. We had callers to the selectmen looking to retain our webmaster services. Your labor of love, you toiled to both build and maintain a town website. You burned the midnight oil, making updates upon request at unmentionable hours of the night. You also helped with solid succession planning. You loaned your insight and wisdom in the process to help the transition to a more user-based system through Civic Plus. We are learning the ropes and greatly appreciate your assistance as we feel our way through forward. Sadly, there's a picture that cuts off some of it. We were sad to see our old website creation retire. Sorry, without the first two words of that sentence, those sentences, I don't think I'm going to catch what it means. So when we do that letter, we should fix that part.
Maybe
of
it says we appreciate your feedback and assistance over the past several years.
Years.
Something task.
Task, yes.
Yeah.
We wish you the very best with your new home and want you to know we will miss you, your volunteerism, and just miss our next door neighbor here on Linden Street. Wishing you the very best at home. Sincerely, the Board of Selectmen.
Okay. Yes, we will miss Garth.
Yeah.
Thanks for everything, Garth.
It is a great
Appreciate it.
website.
Yep.
Mary?
Margaret is listening on the phone in such a way that I can't promote her. Although sometimes when I pass the baton off to, oh, I see Keith Susie here. Keith, hold on. I'm gonna see if I can strong arm Keith into helping us for a minute. Keith, my man.
Okay. So that is the letter.
Yes. Would you like to make a motion to approve?
I also move.
Seconded, once we can change that
Yeah. with
photo
that-
and get it up out of the way.
Right. You see what I'm talking about, Peg, right?
Yep.
Okay, let's take a vote. Keith, aye.
Stone eye.
Hawkins, aye.
Okay. Mary, are you able to talk to Keith about it? I assume.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
I just begged him with a text message to see if he can open up Margaret's mic, but I don't know if he can. She's the caller 5900.
Yep.
Scott, do you know how to pull somebody up too?
Is she in the office?
I don't know if I have.
She's,
permission.
she's an attendee right now.
Right. Is she in the office or at home?
Yeah. So
Scott,
sadly,
I've
the
just
way
made you a co-host too. So, oh, there she is. All right, now how does Margaret open her microphone when you have?
I can
She just click
I can
on it.
unmute her.
Ooh, do that. Splendid.
Okay.
Sorry.
Margaret says she's
I have a
ready.
button that says unmute, but actually, sadly,
Yeah.
I'm gonna
clicking
tell
is
her,
not.
on the phone, she's gonna press
Yep.
*6. *6, Margaret. Oh, there she is.
Hi, everybody. I'm just
Hi.
unable to connect by video. It keeps wanting to prompt me for host stuff, and I've tried everything. So I'll stick around by phone.
Okay.
Keith,
Um,
thank you for being handy.
All right. We've already started, Margaret.
I know. I've been listening.
Oh, okay. Good. Good. So we're down to general public comment. Are there any comments from the public? I see nothing. All right. Well, our first appointment is with our highway facilities superintendent, Dave Smith. And he's going to give us a routine department report, and then we have a couple of other things to talk to him about. You're on, Dave.
He's muted still.
Mm-hmm.
You have to unmute yourself.
I've asked twice for him to unmute himself and open his camera, but he has control over that.
Excuse me, may I ask, Mary, is my account the host, or is your account the host?
My account is the host.
Okay, it just won't let me go in. So, okay, I'll stay on the phone then.
Using the Chrome browser, Margaret?
I am not using the Chrome browser. I'm using my usual Firefox, and it usually works, but it's not working tonight. I can use the Chrome browser. I can try
If you're
that.
logged into Chrome, it could be some integration stuff. It's going to have you just open like an incognito window to see if it recognizes that you just as a member of the public as opposed to an owner of an account that has a Zoom account.
Margaret, you know how to log in as you or me. We're both the same password. Why don't you
I
just
do.
try it?
I for some reason I'm locked out. I will go on. I'll see if I
Oh,
can.
now Dave's saying the same thing. Dave has just texted me, won't let him.
Yeah,
Won't let him
something's
grab
going
his
on
microphone and
tonight.
camera. Do you guys want to cancel this meeting and get back on in 5 minutes?
What,
I'm
you're
not
gonna send
cancel
out
it, but
another
just
link?
like- No, use the link, but just like restart this.
Well, you don't want to cancel the meeting. You want to just continue the
Postpone,
meeting.
right.
Yeah,
No, not even postpone it. We're just gonna take a recess and come back in 5.
right. Yes, this is a continuation of our September 21st meeting, which we had some technical difficulties. And our next thing on the agenda would be an appointment with Dave Smith, Highway Superintendent. Dave, what's going on?
Well, we made it through another month.
Yeah.
The air conditioner is still working in town hall. Although with a few mornings like today, we're not going to need it much longer.
Right.
I've yet to hear back from National Grid on anything they're going to do with the trees. They did come into town and do one hazard tree about 3 weeks ago, but that was it. They did one and done. I'm not sure what's going to come of that. To be honest with you, probably nothing. They run a regular schedule, and I think they're just going to wait till it's their time to come into town. So, roadside mowing, trimming of what we can do on the ground, the basin clean. All the basins have been cleaned for the second time this year. Field mowing, not a lot of that because the no rain, everything's dry. It's more like creating dust more than anything. We've been out doing the crack sealing in the pavement, the patching the roads and road edges. We started servicing the trucks for winter. And we had a couple of pretty good storms come through with some washout and some tree branches down, but nothing out of the ordinary, really. We finally got the signboard axle back together, which the signboard is at Tohoto instructing people on drop-offs. So it's kind of been loaned out for a few weeks. And one thing that's not on here that I'd like to call your attention to, I've gotten a few calls recently about conservation property and some hazard trees that are on conservation property that are leaning or falling onto residents' property. And I'm not sure exactly how the town needs to address that. But it's probably going to be more common as time goes along, especially with the amount of dead trees that are not only on the road, but also in the woods. So that's something that we need to think about.
Yeah. Have you talked to Margaret about that?
I mentioned it to her that I did receive a few calls about people questioning who's responsible for the trees. And to be honest with you, I didn't have an answer, but I don't think, I think it's something we need to take up with conservation.
Yeah. Okay.
The department, excuse me, through the chair, the department does not have the capacity to care for all the trees on the town ways, plus the trees on conservation land, so that does require more of a conversation.
Okay.
Margaret, David, is someone reaching out to conservation to ask to follow up with those questions?
I have not yet, but I will.
Okay. Are there any other questions for Peg?
So Mr. Smith, anyone ever watched Lost in Space? Mr. Smith. Just an update or a question for you, Dave. Have you gotten back in touch with the gentleman on, oh God, what is that road? The one with the basin, the private road? I'm
So
blanking. Yeah.
I've called and scheduled a survey to come in to actually place that basin to see if in fact it is on his side or if it's within the town layout. So that's the next
Okay.
step we're doing.
All right. Do you have a time frame on that? Soon?
Yeah, I'm at the mercy of the surveyors.
Okay, well, you know what? The town's doing their part. We're reaching out above and beyond. So that's all I can ask of you. I appreciate it.
Are there sort of other sort of ugly storm basins in town? Like, I mean, the one at sort of Carter and Highland is really kind of deep and could be weird for bicycles. I mean, I know that land shape and water flow doesn't always make for all of them to be perfectly flush and take all the water out, but are there other areas in town that are messy?
There aren't really too many areas that I can think of. There is a basin at the former Spooky World.
Mm-hmm.
And we're having some issues with that because there's a basin up in the parking lot that the gravel is eroded around it so badly that it doesn't take water anymore. So now all the gravel is washing down the driveway and plugging up the basin that's at the bottom of the driveway. I did mention it to conservation. We don't think the property is occupied anymore, so we're not sure where the liability falls at this point.
And who does own that land? Is it ours?
The basin that's in their property belongs to whoever owns the property. Now,
Okay.
we were under the impression that the property got sold because there was a landscaper in there trying to run a business out of there. And it looks to be vacated again.
Oh, Mary's got her hand up.
Molly Reed wants to be heard on this, and I just promoted her, and here she comes. Molly,
Okay.
if you want to open up your microphone.
We're
Because I
gonna
know
punch
there's still, there
Okay.
she is. I know that there's a still big for sale sign on Spooky World itself.
They split that property into the house on one lot and the outbuildings on another lot. And it was my understanding that guy who bought the house lot was the landscaper. But, he's not running the landscaping business there anymore, right? Did he shut it down? He was told to shut it down?
Yeah, it looks empty. The property, there are no trucks there anymore.
So it's just there.
So we don't, so they're not, so then we don't own any of the land. It's all privately held.
Yes.
I think there's conservation next to it though, isn't there?
In the back, probably, because doesn't that abut, was that Boundless Adventures up that way and going back into the woods
Uh,
where
Yeah, and
the,
it-
where the things used to run?
And it butts Wheeler's land, I think, too.
yeah.
Yeah. I used to work there. It's shocking.
It's a shame what happened to that building.
It is. I think that a brewery should come in and we should call it Spooky Brew. Just saying.
All right. We,
Mary has her hand up.
oh, okay, Mary?
Mr. Molly, to the chair. Janet Landy is in the audience and texted me that the audio is bad. And so I'm not sure if anybody else in the audience wants to throw up their hand. Is the audio bad? If it's yes, raise your hand.
They can't hear you.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Janet is reconnecting.
Okay,
She just keeps reconnecting, and I'm not sure if it's at her end because I'm not seeing anybody else.
I'll text June and see.
June, Keith, Amy, Dennis.
Matter for the,
Kevin. If you can all text me, can you hear me?
what were you gonna say, Margaret?
I just have a couple of items, agenda items related to Dave's report. I don't know if Peg has had a chance to ask her questions, but Dave, would you like to give the board an update on the position vacancy in your department and on the 23 Linden Street parking lot?
Okay, so the vacancy, sure by now everybody's aware that Brian Fitzgerald left. It's a pretty good loss to the town. He was a great employee, but he's moved on. He's going to better his career, and it's a good move for him. So I congratulate him and thank him for his service. He was a great employee. The position is advertised. We've received 4 resumes so far. I talked with Margaret earlier today. Hopefully we can, towards the end of this week or the first part of next week, start the interview process and get that position filled as soon as possible. With winter approaching, it's going to be very important to get somebody in town and familiar with that side of town and that route. So,
Okay, and how's the parking lot?
well, the parking lot, we're moving forward with that. We have the design from Lynn Saley. He put in a considerable amount of time, did a great job with it. And to be honest with you, I'm waiting for after the election so that we don't mess up the parking lot for people coming and going. So we're not going to do anything until at least after the election.
Yeah. That's a good idea.
Sorry, so we're pinging updates. Keith Susie can hear, June Poland can hear. Janet has reconnected a couple times and she's had a hard time hearing. So I'm not sure if it's, yeah, and Dennis has just answered that he can hear. So this may be limited to Janet.
Okay,
Sorry, Janet.
sorry, Janet.
Get in your car and come up, Janet.
Okay, we also were going to talk to Dave a little bit about the FY21 capital project requests. Mike, I had a couple of questions, and I think I asked today when I saw him, about the air handler at the town offices. And is this something that maybe we should put on the special town meeting or just wait until May?
My intention was to put it on the special town meeting
Okay,
and see where it goes. So just to give an update on that, the estimate that I got, I only talked to one company, ATC, that has been servicing the unit all along. To repair that unit is $17,000 roughly, and a replacement cost is around $54,000. It's 20 plus years old.
Right.
I don't recommend repairing it, to be honest with you.
That would be my recommendation as well. And I'd like, if we could get it on the special town meeting, because I worry that if we wait till the May town meeting, by the time we pass it and he can start doing bids, we'll be into June and July, which everyone then else is doing
Absolutely.
air conditioning units.
Correct.
Or we're stuck with a building that's not usable because this one breaks and we're
Yeah.
stupidly gonna have to pay 17,000 to fix it, and then a month later, 54,000 to replace it.
No, I agree with you.
yeah.
Through the chair, Dave, if you'd like to get a written quote on that, I can assist with the capital request.
Very good.
And I also wanted to ask whether, had you ever gotten any quotes on the town offices entryway, the ADA accessibility issue?
So just for the doors and everything? Or
Uh,
the entryway doors?
I guess,
So after, let me just go a little bit further. After we had the
Okay.
ADA study,
yeah,
the entryway doesn't meet the ADA requirements. So now it takes it to another level. So we have to redo, as part of the, when we're gonna do the parking lot, it's not gonna be a lot of money at that point to rearrange the granite that's out there. And we're thinking we'll actually make the ramp, instead of coming in in the front of the building as it does, it'll come in from the right side. So we're gonna lose one of the, we're not really gonna lose it. We're gonna use up one of the ADA compliant parking spaces so that the ramp will come up from the right side of the entryway
hmm
and directly in front, because the ramp is too steep right now. It doesn't meet code. Then we
okay,
get into the door and the entryway. That's a whole nother, it's very expensive.
yeah.
It involves heat and air curtains, and I did get some rough estimates at the time. It was anywhere from $30,000 to $55,000 to redo that entryway.
Margaret.
Sounds like
Margaret, do you
a
have
grant.
recommendation?
I think we're gonna try for the ADA grant to make those adjustments to the foot entry, the pedestrian entry into the building. If we can round up an estimate in time for the October 9th submission deadline. But as far as the doors go, the transition plan does not address the doors needing a button.
Button.
And all they address is tension, the door tension, and the closing speed. So if those things could be adjusted, we could be compliant with the recommendations in the ADA plan.
Okay. All right. That was my questions. Any other questions for Dave?
Thanks.
Mm-mm.
All right. Well, thanks, Dave. Appreciate you tuning in.
You're welcome.
All right. And I think because of our technical difficulties, we're a little behind, but
Just a quick update, Janet can hear now, so.
oh,
Yay.
Okay.
It was her.
Yay, Janet.
I don't know if that's fair. We're not sure what's going on tonight.
No,
Yeah.
it was her.
okay, so we're going to open the classification hearing. So Molly's right here. Does anybody else need to be promoted, or are we good?
I thought I saw
Kevin.
Kevin, yeah.
Oh, he's coming. He's on our side now.
Viv didn't show up for our meeting, so I'm not sure where she is. So this is just a presentation, so.
Okay. All right, you have the floor.
And I can share my screen.
Hi, Kevin.
Keep your little
We got it, Molly?
I'm not sure. Hold on. I I lost the button.
The PDF you sent, Margaret, really worked well too, I have to say.
Yeah, Google doesn't like PowerPoints, some of the text. I don't know why.
It tries to convert them to their own version of PowerPoint. It's called Google Slide.
Thank you. It's good to know these things.
Am I sharing my screen?
See white screen of
I
death.
see a white screen.
How do I not make it be a white screen?
Whatever you have on your
Um,
screen, right?
Molly, is
Right.
your document pulled up on your computer already?
Yep.
Okay, so when you go to share screen, it should give you all the options of what documents are open on your computer.
Pick the one to share.
So click on the one that you want to show.
It doesn't show anything. Oh,
Well, we're having
'Cause
another
I-
technical
Well,
I think
I shared it with Kevin.
All
Well,
right.
Molly, do you just want to tell us which document you have and we can all go into our Google Drive and pull it up?
Well, I think,
Mary, I don't know if you
why don't
can.
you, why doesn't Margaret share the PDF that she sent to us?
Well, yeah, I could do that. I could do that. Yeah, let me pull it up. It is,
Now I can't even get.
okay, I've got it. I'll share it.
Yay.
Okay. Can you see it okay?
Yes.
Molly, I'll
Yeah.
scroll as you go through it.
I can't even get. There we go. So these figures are based on our preliminary certified values that we just got last week, and the calculations for the tax rate and other tax rate numbers are estimated for this presentation. The valuation numbers are proposed until the DOR gives approval. Mass General Laws, Chapter 50, Section 56 allows a shift in the tax burden between property classes. This does not change the total tax levy as voted by town meeting. It simply determines the share borne by each class. And the role of the assessors is to value property for the purposes of equitable taxation on fair market value by what sales have taken place for the prior calendar year. For FY21 was a review of calendar year 2019 and 2018 sales for commercial and industrial. We administer abatements, exemptions, and exemptions, and we do the presentation for the classification hearing to the Board of Selectmen. Select Board, sorry. What the classification hearing does not do, the classification hearing does not determine the tax rate. It only determines the distribution between tax classes. Tax levy is determined by town meeting, appropriations and expenditures, state and county charges.
Oops. Okay. There you go.
And the purpose of the meeting is either to set a uniform tax rate, all classes of property pay at the same tax rate, or commercial, industrial, and personal property pay at a higher rate and residential pays at a lower rate. Open space discount, a while ago, the town voted at town meeting to accept commercial property as open space, not commercial, chapter land property as commercial, as open space. And those are the only properties that we classify as open space. A residential exemption would shift the tax burden between to non-residential properties in the higher year. Berlin's never done this because we're mostly an owner-occupied town. So there wouldn't be that much of a change. In the small commercial exemption, you've been voting a 10% shift for that class for a while.
The residential exemption, sorry, I get some of this stuff and I just want to make sure, is the residential exemption would shift from between owner occupied and rental properties, and not necessarily just from lower value properties to higher value properties, correct?
Correct. So
Okay.
like, but the only places that really do it are like Boston, Springfield, the
Right.
big cities that have
Right.
a lot of apartment complexes.
Right, because we have so few of them, even if we did a significant shift, it would have probably almost negligible impact on the average taxpayer in town.
Correct.
So Molly, on the open space discount, does that mean that the town is paying the taxes on, is that on conservation land? Is that what?
No, it's only on chapter land. So chapter land normally, if the town splits its rate, the chapter parcels have to pay at the higher commercial rate. So I'm assuming that you, well, the reason behind you accepting chapter land into the open space discount is so that they get taxed at the residential rate.
Could you give me an example of what chapter land is?
Yep. The Lore property near you, across the street from you.
Well, that was a setup. That was certainly not meant. Okay. Yep. All right.
Oh, I was just thinking, or Wheeler Farm, where the farm stand is. I can't think of the name of the
Indian
farm
Head.
stand.
Indian Head?
Indian Head. They're also chapter land. So they have the land that they grow crops on.
Yep.
Is taxed by the farm. The state gives us values to use for certain crops, and that's what their land is taxed at.
Okay.
Board members, page 13 of the presentation, we'll get to that. I think there's some pretty good explanations of each of these items on page 13. Molly, you want to move on to the
Sure.
next page? Okay.
So those are the classes of property: residential and open space, and then CPI, commercial, industrial, personal. And these are our preliminary values by those classes.
So Molly, what are we, 60-something% residential? Is that what currently?
I think you're right, Margaret.
Okay.
And these are what I take the average values and break it out to what the little chart says the tax rate would be. I know that's small. But so it does the percent change and the amount, the
There. Okay.
dollar amount change.
Last year, the shift was at 48%. Not that the numbers are exactly the same, but that was what the shift was last year. And it was done because it was determined to be an equitable shift between residential and commercial, with both adjusting similar percentages.
The last year's is down the bottom there.
Yeah.
Right here. There it is, right there. Okay. I'll move on.
And then this is the worksheet that the DOR gives us, so I don't have to do all that math. But that it gives you the shifts from 1 to 60%. I didn't put all of them in there because it would be way too small. I
Right.
just did a few here and there. In the residential split, the residential at just a uniform rate is 76%. And then open spaces, commercials 18, industrials 1, personal properties 2. Personal property went up a lot this year.
And the 1.6 shift is the maximum shift, correct?
Yeah, it used to be 150, but this form came back as 160. So I guess the closer you get to 150, it goes up.
Okay.
I'm going to have to look into that a little bit.
Okay.
And then these are what has been done in the past. The shifts.
Mm, mhm.
And then this explains the small commercial exemption. It's qualifying businesses must be on the list supplied by the assessors by the Division of Unemployment Assistance Board. Multiple business properties, all businesses must qualify to receive the exemption. Value must be less than $1 million. Industrial properties do not qualify but share the tax burden shift for the exemption. The exemption goes with the property owner, not the business. It relies on the trickle down effect.
Meaning?
So if you have a multi-tenanted, so if you had a small strip mall that one person owned 3 units in a building, all 3 units would have to be on the list that the Department of Unemployment, the Division of Unemployment gives us in order for the whole parcel to qualify.
And it would be the landlord that ends up getting the discount, and the hope is that then it trickles down to the actual tenants.
Right. In this, I just left this slide in and put in the last 2 years excess levy. We don't know it yet.
Right.
The idea was for FY21 to have the excess levy equal the amount of the debt exclusion, $893,954. So in planning the budget this year, we wanted to make sure that we did not tap too much into that excess levy that's represented by the debt exclusion. And
then that's just the votes that you would have to do. Is there any more information I can give you?
No, I think I get it. So if I'm reading the slide 10, the column that says tax rate towards the end is our historic tax rate going back to 2005, where our tax rates were combined and in like the 13 range. But our tax rate for residential peaked in then 2014 at 16.67 and has generally been drifting down, except for last year. That went up a chunk.
Well, FY17 and 18, it was up to what it. Yes.
Yeah. And then was 20. When was the last revaluation? You reval every 3 years, so
Yeah, well,
2018.
our last one was FY17, and now they've moved it to every 5 years, so they staggered us in.
Okay.
So our next one will be in 5 years.
Okay, are there any other questions for Molly?
Hypothetically, because I'm not making any motions or statement, if we wanted to keep if the goal was to keep the residential tax rate near the 15.79 that it was in fiscal year 20, that would put us, the number that's closest to that is a shift of 44% that would lower it to 15.79, correct?
yes.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that's my position. I just want to make sure I understand the charts and the shifts so that when we start getting into deciding what the shift is, I fully understand what the impact of different shift numbers are.
Right.
And through the chair, I think Scott's comment is well taken, because I do believe, I mean, once we hear more from DOR over this next week, I do believe that the recommended shift is going to be somewhere in the 44 to 48 percentile. So it could be that 44 that you're referencing, Scott.
So Molly, with the number of commercial businesses in town, do you know off the top of your head, have we increased from last year, decreased, flat? Nominal?
The whole commercial class went down by 7%, but that's mostly because we were, we held on, we were very conservative with the malls.
Mhm.
Because they had those big vacancies. So, and it has nothing to do with COVID. It's just because
It's
like
just-
Highland Commons had, I think 2 or 3 stores pull out and they still have 5 or 6 that were never rented. So they're in the mall had not the big, it's Sears hasn't left yet, I don't think. And J.C. Penney's and Macy's are still there. So the end caps are doing okay, but interior, they've had a lot of stores leave.
Was, what about abatements? Did a number of people come forward? Just curious, come forward and say, hey, come up and look, my taxes have gone way out of control. Come up and see what might have happened.
At the Highland Commons has filed abatements and they have us at the appellate tax board. But the mall, knock on wood,
Has
has
not.
not filed since I've been there. I know they filed in the past, but they haven't filed since I've been there.
And hasn't Highland Commons filed almost every year?
Yes,
For an abatement? Yeah.
yeah. And I would just think that they're going to do that till they're fully tenanted.
Yep.
Is that a word?
Yep.
It is now.
It is
Um,
now. We know what you mean.
So,
Sorry.
go
I
ahead.
had a question for actually, all right, we are not able to vote tonight because of notification periods. So this will be continued till next week.
Yes. And are there any other questions? Because I have the motion right here.
Can we go back to that display that we had on?
Yeah.
I just want to point something out. And can we move back a page or two?
Which page?
Yes, I bet.
This
Maybe
one?
one more page? No,
Yeah.
one
Page-
more.
Yep.
Yep.
That's the
Right
page I'm
here.
spending most of my time on. Yes.
Okay, I was just going to point it out so everybody sees that.
Yeah.
So in the yellow on the left, it says average house. So it's the only line item in the yellow, and it's the second line item down says what, 443,700. So that's the average price of a house. And if you look at the tax rate on the left, and you go to, I don't know, pick a number, 1575, and you slide over, that house will pay $373.84 more in taxes for that year.
Yep.
Does everybody see that? Is everybody?
Yep.
Okay,
At least I see it. I see the line you're
Okay.
talking about. Yep.
right. And then on the other side, it talks about the commercial. And it's just kind of easier to make your choice if you, to me, if you're looking at that.
Yep.
Or
'Cause
those numbers.
The intent is because the actual taxes people pay is not just the rate, but because it's a revaluation year, their house could have gone up in value. And so even if we hold the same rate, they could end up paying more taxes.
Exactly. Even though the rate is less.
Yeah, even though the rate is less. Yeah. Yep.
Right, right. So I just kind of wanted to make that clear.
Right. So
Yep.
our current rate is, residential rate is, I can't find it correctly, 15.79. Then
Right,
if we did a 60% shift, which is probably not where we're going, but for example, it looks like we would lower their taxes huge amounts going down to 1486, but in reality, it saves them a whole $21.50.
right.
Correct.
But on the other side, look what you did to the commercial.
Right.
Yes.
You,
Right.
yeah,
Mhm.
That's in
It creates
yellow.
a significant imbalance.
Right.
yeah,
Right.
by far.
I picked an extreme, so it was easy to do the example.
Yeah.
I'm not advocating for a 60% shift. So
No, I was, but I'll retract my statement. So, all right.
Molly, do you want to address public disclosure? The assessors are in the public disclosure period right now.
Yes, we started on Friday. we haven't had too many calls yet, but it's up on the website and Mary put it on the town's Facebook page. So hopefully people are looking at it. And I was so excited. I got vision to update and I got the list out there and it all came together at the same time. So people can go to the vision site and look up their house and see their value, or there's a alpha by address list that they can look themselves
now-
up and their neighbors if they want to.
I tried to find that. I could not find it.
It's
So-
on the assessor's
Yeah?
website, and there's a tab on the left that says FY21 revaluation.
It's like everyone is now going out there. Dun, 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 dun,
I was there. I'll find it later. We don't have to stop the
Hey.
meeting for me.
Mm.
I'll find it eventually.
I feel
Molly, here's the page. Where is it?
Public disclosure, right-hand side, Margaret? Down? Up?
It
Up?
is-
Right here?
Up. Is that it, Molly?
Yep.
And there are
Oh,
the,
I'm under departments, not boards. That's what did it.
Okay.
But if you should go to departments, it should be there. Yeah, go to assessors.
Yep, a department.
There,
First,
see?
public disclosure notice.
It
Oh, that's
over-
just the. That's just the.
21
notice.
preliminary assessments by,
This one right
Okay.
here.
Oh,
Yeah,
I see
Molly?
it now. Yep.
Yep. And the public disclosure has the link to vision. I guess I should maybe put that someplace else. I don't know where.
No.
It's there.
Yeah.
I was gonna say,
Good to
that didn't
know.
look like my website.
There was a brief discussion on Highland Commons and the concerns that Highland Commons has addressed with the assessors. So just to be clear, Solomon Pond Mall also sent a letter back in May to the town, to multiple departments, expressing their concerns with the COVID shutdown and possible addressing this possibly in the future.
Mhm.
Okay. Any other questions?
No, it was very easy to follow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Then I will.
Every
accept-
time you see me looking sort of above and off to space, I'm actually looking at the monitor that's just above my monitor. There's the camera on, and I'm reading all the little details and numbers and things.
So if there's no more questions, I mean, I didn't know if the audience, I guess, had any questions either. They just got a lesson, I think that was very informative.
if anybody in the audience has a question, can you press the button to raise your hand?
And I can also post this to the website so people can look at it.
And
Yeah.
our meeting is going to be continued until next week. And so there will be a
Right.
chance next week, although,
True. All right, so if there are no questions, which it looks like there's not, then I would accept a motion to take this under advisement and to continue the public classification hearing to Monday, September 28th at 7:30 PM.
so moved.
Oh, sorry, I was busy looking up my, my house, and seconded.
Okay, and we'll take a vote. Keefe, aye.
Stone Eye.
Hawkins, aye.
Okay, it's unanimous, so will be continued to next Monday at 7:30.
Thank you, Molly and Kevin.
Thank
welcome.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Have a good rest of your meeting.
Hi,
Thanks.
neighbor.
All right, we're running a few minutes late, and we have an appointment with the Historical Commission. Okay. We got everybody up here that we need up here. All righty. Well, good. All right. Well, we have took a nice trip over to the Bullard House today and had a chance to look around. Very informative. Glad we were all able to make it. So we have questions, I guess. Actually, Margaret, do you want to just talk about for a second about the structural survey, update people?
Yes. The Historical Commission recently recommended to the board that the board authorize contracting with Squaw Hollow Restoration out of Wales, Mass. To do a structural survey on the Bullard House. It's Tim Walhuter. He's going to be conducting the structural survey, and he's going to be preparing a report on that survey with the final report due by December 6th of this year.
Okay,
That's
so we're
sufficient?
looking forward to finding out what he has to say in this structural survey. So I guess, Margaret, you had also made a recommendation to the board. I don't know if you want to go over that or if people have questions first or.
With respect to storage?
Yes.
Through the chair. So there are a lot of, my recommendation is based on the fact that there are a lot of moving pieces. The Historical Commission's collection right now is spread among about 5 different facilities. And the curatorial building is getting ready for a heating system to be able to accept some of the collection. My recommendation to the board tonight, based on the Historical Commission's request, is to authorize temporary storage at the Red Fire Station, understanding, again, that there are some moving pieces here with the Historical Commission's work. Number 1, the curatorial building being prepared to accept some of the collection, and number 2, the Bullard House structural survey that is currently in process. I understand, and I'm sure the board understands, that when the Bullard House is renovated, items do have to be temporarily moved out of there to accommodate the renovation work. But at the same time, as I write in my recommendation, we are undergoing a Village Center strategic plan with CMRPC, and we do need to look at the Village Center comprehensively for highest and best uses of municipal buildings. So I wanted to take that into account. I have shared my recommendation with the board and the Historical Commission.
Okay. From the board first, I guess, are there any questions or comments?
I just have a concern, and it's been one since I've had from the very beginning, is that there's dates that are out there. I'm not quite sure how they were gotten to give like an end date to something, but I guess I'm looking for, and maybe it's not possible until we get the survey done, a total project plan, because I'd really love to see what's going to happen when and how we're going to do it, and who's responsible for the cost, and who's responsible for moving things. The Bullard House still has a lot of artifacts that are there, and I'm sure all the other buildings spread about town that has housing historical items have that too. But that's where my uncomfortableness lies, is that there just doesn't seem to be an overall plan, and I don't know why we don't have one or what the roadblock is, because I feel that this, it will just continue just to be pushed down the road for that.
Is there anything else to be said, Scott?
Well, I agree. I don't think I've seen a sort of a written plan for a thing. I have, in the conversations with various folks, I can definitely see a picture and a vision of where it's going, and it does kind of excite me. about where it's, what the possibilities of some of that stuff looks like. I think, the Historical Society has, I think, tried pretty hard on their own dime and their own muscle to get us, I think, to a building that has had a bunch of, I called them earlier today, I called them the sort of non-sexy projects, getting wiring up to date and adding the fire alarms and the chimneys and the furnace, things that externally look like nothing is happening when in reality those are are tough projects sometimes. And I'm kind of hoping that with finally putting some potentially mitigation money into it and other stuff, we could actually, as Peg said, try to get it over the finish line so it could be a jewel for the town and a celebration of some of the history and the things that have happened and made this town special.
Yeah, I agree. I think, as I
I-
said,
I don't know how we get
earlier
timelines on
today-
it.
What's that?
As you say, I agree that we should figure out a way to try to get some timelines and make sure the Historical Society and the Historic Commission have the support and resources necessary to help push these along too.
Yes. Is there anybody from the Historical Commission? Barry, did you want to speak?
The 5 building business, I mean, there's 2 locations in the town offices right now, whether I think, and the plan that we have presented to you would vacate both of those spaces and move the material to either the curatorial building or the Red Fire Station. We're still left with a lot of stuff in the Bullet House, which we can move some of it into those other locations, but we're still pretty tight. But that's what the plan was as presented to you here, is that we'd be out of those other 2 locations.
By when?
By the time that we can get things moved, the big thing is when the HVAC system is completed, is dealt with, then we can, I mean, we can move in a matter of about a month. But we can't be sure that we actually have started moving some boxes already up to the curatorial building. We're going to move some more stuff up there even before that other work is done. But we can't know that until we've got that other thing accomplished. And we've had a change in terms of where we are with that, because there's now 2 different proposals before us that we're trying to sort out and make a decision on.
Do we know when the HVAC will be complete?
I absolutely don't, because we haven't yet decided what plan to follow. We just had a second plan thrown into the mix, so that was confused it a bit. But we're working on that. When we know what we're going to do with that, we'll be able to prognosticate what you're asking about.
So the one of the plans was to have Assabet finish the project.
Yeah.
And because of
I'm at a point
COVID,
where I want to revisit that possibility, because I don't know what Assabet's doing. I really had taken the assumption that they wouldn't be doing this kind of job, but I think we need to check and just make sure that's the case.
well, and yes, I think that is true. Right now, the kids aren't going out and doing work as they have in the past. And I probably someone needs to touch base with Assabet to see if there's a possibility of having that change.
If they're not going to do it pretty soon, very, very soon, I think we need to go another route, because we don't want to put it off months more.
Right. Do you want to tell them about the other route, Barry?
The first thing is just to find out whether they still would do anything with this.
Okay. All right.
So
it
who's
is-
going to get in touch with them?
Through the chair, excuse me, through the chair. The Historical Commission shared the most recent quotes with Dave Smith, our Highway and Facilities Superintendent, for him to weigh in. So I don't know if you want to hear Dave's feedback on the systems. These are the efficient mini split systems that were quoted.
Okay, Dave?
He's on
There he is.
I don't have the exact numbers, but Barry, you can correct me if I'm wrong. One estimate was like 4,000 and one was 7,000. The $7,000 system, in my opinion, is the way to go. It's a more popular system. It actually puts two heating cooling heads in the building, and it operates at a lower temperature. As crazy as that sounds, the cheaper, less expensive unit it doesn't run below zero, which it doesn't make much sense if you're trying to heat a building. So I recommended that we look into trying to come up with the money for the $7,000 unit. One, because it operates at a lower temperature. It does have a better heat distribution system, and it's a more popular unit. So down the line, if something should go wrong, parts would be more accessible.
And was the $7,000 unit the one that Assabet was recommending? No. Yeah?
I don't.
The
Go ahead, Barry.
the unit that we had originally proposed was from the architect that did the
Yeah.
town hall job. And the architect included a recommendation of equipment and so forth in their stuff. That we gave to Assabet, and Assabet quoted their thing based on that. They brought up the issue of below zero. We have a small electric heater that we had in our previous building, and it served us well for, I don't know, 12 or 15 years. And we were going to install that to take care of the few occasions when it's below zero. So we had that plan going. And then when Assabet, when we get into the COVID mess and so forth, we started talking to Knockborough Oil to get an estimate to do it without Assabet. And that's how we get into this latest thing. And then somebody wanted to have a system that wouldn't have the below zero issue. So we have two recommendations before us based on that.
Barry, what is the manufacturer?
From anybody that the smaller system would be inadequate, but we have two recommendations and there definitely are differences that we still are trying to sort out.
Who's the manufacturer of the splits?
What?
Who manufactures
These
the
are
splits?
these are Mitsubishi units.
Mitsubishi units? Okay.
And I know a while back, before Margaret came on, June and I were trying to make sure that we had the money to pay for the Mitsubishi unit. And I vaguely remember, am I right, June, that it was about $7,000 that was left in the article in order to pay for it? Yeah? No?
It's more like about $3,000 left.
Oh,
And
okay.
that was enough to buy the equipment, which Assabet was going to install for free, and we could fit in the budget. So part of the thing with this now is if we don't go that route, we have to get the additional funding beyond the money that's available in that account. The Historical Commission was looking at requesting the Historical Society to help us with that overage. But lying in that is the political thing of, okay, now we're asking for more money, and how much money do we need? And here's two alternatives, so forth. So it's another level of okay in terms of getting that additional funding.
Just for the record, our experience.
That is something we could do fairly quickly because they can have a meeting and decide to spend it, but that's what would be required.
Okay.
Don't we want to do the right, excuse me, don't we want to do the right thing for the building?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Just that our experience here with splits is they do become significant. They do become less efficient as you get super cold. But that, we have we plan on using space heater type things if it ever got cold enough that it really stopped. But it's not one of those things like at 1 degree, it's perfectly fine. At 0 degrees, it suddenly stops. It's as you start getting colder and approaching zero and below zero, it just is not as efficient and takes a little bit more oomph to get you warm. I think in a building, you're not planning on trying to keep it 70 or 75 degrees. I think you should be fine, especially if you can then throw a space heater in a slightly weird winter where it's 20 below for a week straight.
We only run that building at roughly 60 degrees for winter. Because, and in fact, that's a better temperature for the stuff as a whole. In the summer, we could kick it up a little so that we're not using as much energy to bring the temperature down. But this summer, with nothing going on there, we had the highest temperature I saw in there after the 2 hottest weeks was 73 degrees. So the building doesn't go up that high very fast anyway. So hopefully that would work either way.
So
I'll talk to you, Scott, about a little. I'd like to get a little more input from you, offline separately before we make a decision.
Margaret,
Just to clarify, the balance in the remaining balance in the account is $3,215.81.
wow.
So, Margaret, I know we talked a little bit about this today. I think Elaine was part of the conversation. What do we need to try to do to either drive money towards this? Is this CPA eligible? Is it, do we need information to make it grant eligible?
I would say all of the above, Peg. I would say all of the above. I don't see why we should rule out grants. It may not be as practical, maybe a little more difficult. My hope with the structural survey is that there'll be some opportunity for grant funding. We could leverage then CPA funds to go toward a larger project that's partially funded through a grant. So I think there definitely are other funding opportunities. There's not something that's immediately available, obviously, but to do a larger project at the Bullard House, it would be in the town's best interest to seek those funds.
So then immediately, well, as immediate can be, the next thing truly that we're waiting for is the assessment, correct? By Tim? And that'll be done by December.
December 6th is the final report is due.
And then what happens after that?
That's a question for historical.
We don't know that until we see that report, but yes, then I anticipate that we would then do a revision of our general plan, which exists already, and based on that report, putting new priorities on and so forth.
So we're kind of stuck a little bit. Kind of, sort of.
I wouldn't consider us stuck. I would say we are actively working on the next step, and you can't sort of go 2 steps up until this step is done.
Right. Right. And that's what I meant. Unfortunately, as much as I would love to see a project plan with an end date, with all the tasks and all the dependencies here, due date, who's doing what, you can't, because we need the plan back, which is due by December, which unfortunately is going to give the historical commission which way to go, the $7 option, the $3,000 option. I'm not a fan of spending money, but I'd rather go towards the 7,000 if it's going to rectify more problems than a 3,000. It's kind of like Dave was talking about the stuff up on the town roof. Do you pay $17,000 to get it fixed and limp us along, or do you pay $100 bazillion and get everything fixed? So, we're kind of in that same spot for the Bullard House.
Can I just make one suggestion, and that would be to, I know that we have usually a running list of things when our representative and senators ask us, what does Berlin need? Can we put this on the list? Particularly the extra money for the HVAC.
Well, and we're kind of hoping that the decision on which HVAC system to go is also not that far away. That is on a separate track to the structural survey.
Right.
And so,
It has nothing to do with the structural survey.
Right. So it's on its own separate track.
And as far as the HVAC system and the state money, that's something they attach to the state budget when they're doing the state budget.
Yeah.
You don't want to wait till they do a state budget to get the HVAC thing straightened out. We need to do that.
Well, let's hope it doesn't take that long, right?
Quickly.
Yeah.
Is there a possibility, I'm sorry, through the chair, is there a possibility of coming up with the additional funds through a special town meeting article that would repurpose a couple of $1,000s from the existing appropriation for the Bullard House to put it toward the difference for the heating system in the curatorial building?
That works for me.
I don't think that's a good idea at all. I don't see any reason to take this to town meeting at all. We can solve this thing separate from town meeting.
What tell me how, what you're thinking.
Get the extra money from the Historical Society.
Right. That's what Barry offered earlier, is that the Historic Society might fund some of the difference between what is available in the current fund and what is necessary to do the project.
So the through the chair. So the Historical Society would give a donation to the town. The select board would accept that donation in order to proceed with that work. The board is responsible for accepting the donations.
Yeah.
Okay.
So how does that happen? How does that happen? What are the steps to acquire that money?
We have a Historical Society meeting and ask them if they'll do it.
Yep. And that's not long after you just decide what the right direction to go is. And that's probably not that far out either. Again, if Barrett, I can touch base. I can give him some of the pros and cons we had with some of our splits. You know, my house has 4 units in it. I think a half dozen houses. Our common house actually has both the Daikin units and the Mitsubishi units in it. And we have some pros and cons of each one of them. I think as a general rule, we like all of them. So
We
we've not
have
had
many
problems keeping
splits
saying
too,
one.
and I think they're wonderful.
Well, I'm interested in that, Scott, because we could walk around and look at some of them and figure out how they might compare to what we're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, because we have different size systems in different places too.
Yeah, we looked at, Lee Tabor and I went and looked at the ones at 19 Carter last night, but neither of those are the same kind of numbers that the ones that we have are. So
Yep.
I'm trying to get an idea from somebody that's living with one of these.
Yeah. I could probably find something.
Okay.
Good.
You guys can figure out a time and date to do that. And do we want to also, the board want to talk about the recommendation that Margaret made? Do we want to accept her recommendation?
I have spaced. What is the recommendation?
There are a couple. I'll read from this through the chair. For the prior to the board authorizing permanent use of the red fire station to store some of the collection, I recommend that the full commission develop written procedures for accepting donations to determine which items are of permanent preservation value by the town versus which items would be appropriately preserved by museums or other historical organizations, and which items have no meaningful historical or other value to the town or others, thereby allowing disposal of those items. And at the bottom, I recommend that the commission be allowed to store items from its collection until October 31, 2021 in the red fire station. I recommend that until then, the historical commission provide reports to the board every 2 months with progress reports on the current projects. Should the commission need to request an extension, I recommend that they appear before the board with written justification of need for the extension by July 31st, 2021.
I like it.
Okay. Peg? Where are you?
I like it. Margaret, a question for you. Your first line, giving the historical commission a reasonable time frame to determine needs and then designate the buildings, and which items to be retained and do not. Now, is there, and I don't know if this magical position exists, is there someone out there who could come out and say, this is awesome, that's a door from 80 bazillion years ago, look at that, we need that. Nope, that's pretty common, we really don't need to keep that. Or are you putting all this on the historical commission to do that?
Peg, I can't speak to that. I'm not the historical commission. That is a question for the historical commission. And I think that does reflect on procedures that should be established by the commission, and the commission's interest in having a professional come out and do that.
Was some of the information that you put in the Google Drive for us, was that shared with the commission?
Mary put that in, and I don't know. Okay.
I mean,
I
Um,
don't know what you're talking about.
Through the chair, if Mary wants to share the information that she put into the Google Drive with the Historical Commission, that would be good.
Okay. So my feeling from this is that we need to decide if we're going to go with Margaret's recommendation for one thing, and the Historical Commission, I would say, probably needs to make a decision on which split unit to go with after perhaps Scott and Barry get together. Am I missing something?
Once that heating system is resolved, the Historical Commission's going to be able to proceed with moving their collection to that building. That is really one very key driver in all of this.
Yeah.
Right. And even if they can't fit everything in there, it will reduce the stress in all the other places we're currently storing
Yes,
things.
yes.
Right. And then perhaps, Barry, you'll be in touch with the Historical Society also.
When we know what we're doing,
Yes. Okay, so I'm going to ask the board if there's
I'm not sure what that has to do with the storage question with the fire station, however. And if you limit us to a year at the fire station, what are we going to do then?
Well, then you may, if you need an
That's like
extension,
kicking the can down the street and for another year.
you would just have to come back and ask for an extension and explain why. That's all.
We already know we'll need it right now.
Okay.
Dave has a question through the chair.
Dave.
Oh, I just want to inform you that before, and I'm not against the Historical Commission using the fire station for some storage, but the building needs to be cleaned out first. There's a lot of things up there. The Boy Scouts are using it for storage. There's some fire stuff. There's some highway stuff. It's going to take a good day of going through what's up there currently, and also the roof leaks.
The roof is leaking?
Yes, it's been leaking for many years.
Where is it leaking? What part of the building?
The side that the Boy Scouts use.
Oh,
Well,
I
then
wasn't aware of that.
we have to rethink this.
But that roof is getting to be about 20 years old. So.
Yeah, I haven't been on it. I just know it's a flat rubber roof, and it could be repaired for short money.
Yeah, a new roof was put on it 20 years ago or a bit more, so that's entirely possible. No,
Okay. Well, we may have to relook at this then if there is an issue with the roof leaking.
well, I do understand that that you have the study of the buildings going on and so forth, and decisions to be made. And I understand you can't very well say, oh, well, we'll keep that one forever because you guys want to do that. And so I understand that there would be a temporary nature because the town still has decisions to make about the building anyway.
Right.
But I'm also, I'm just a little concerned about, I mean, even if we reduce some of the stuff in the collection and so forth, it doesn't get us down to the point where we're all going to fit on the Bullet House property.
Right.
Well, I think maybe some of the guidelines, if Mary sends them to you too, that might be helpful. I
mean, if you think of what we saw at the Bullet House and the room that's in the basement of the town hall and the stuff that's already over in 1870 Town Hall and the stuff that is already at the fire station, even, because some of the stuff will take up more room if it is properly stored than it takes up now. Some stuff might not still exist. It's not all going to fit in that curatorial storage building, especially if you're talking about using the Bullard House as presentation space. It's not, if you're thinking of the Bullard House as not a storage bin, but is, you know, it has a couple of storage rooms, but not the whole building like it is now. There's a lot of stuff in that building.
Yeah. Well, I think the commission has
But-
its work cut out for them too.
Well, and I also think putting in the, Barry talked about just kicking on, I think putting in the fire station for a year gets time for the curatorial storage building to be finished and some stuff to go in there so we have a sense of how much that overflow is, and a time for the center of town study to be done, and a chance to look at our overall usage of buildings to have a better shape, and we might discover a better place to put the stuff at that point in time. And so I don't think it all falls to the Historic Commission to say you have to fit it inside the curatorial storage building. I think it is incumbent upon us as much to figure out what the best use of our town buildings are, and maybe there's some creative solutions out there.
Yeah. All right. Any other comments, or do I hear a motion?
We need a motion on Margaret's letter,
Margaret's recommendation, yeah.
Margaret's recommendations. I am fine making the motion to for the recommendations in Margaret's note. Some days
Well
I'm really
done,
good
Scott.
at, some days I'm articulate and some days I'm just not. I
Here's
was really
Scott,
trying to
here's
say
the
what I was gonna say.
recommendation.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. I'll second it. I mean, we need a starting point. We
Yep.
have to jump off the bridge somewhere, so let's
Yep.
jump. I would just ask for us to be kept closer in the know than we have been.
Just through the chair, does the board want to schedule
I agree.
meetings every other month?
Yes.
Updates?
Either schedule meetings or a report of some kind. How's that?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so there's a motion and a second. Then I guess we will take a vote. Keith, aye.
Stone Eye.
Hawkins, aye.
Okay, motion passes. Good luck to the commission. I think you probably, if you have a meeting scheduled, or if you don't have a meeting scheduled, I guess might be a good idea to do so.
We have a meeting scheduled for our regular meeting next month, and if we're ready to make a decision sooner on the HVAC, we'll have a special meeting.
Okay,
Thanks.
sounds
I
good.
I ask that Historical Commission please keep Dave Smith, our Highway and Facility Superintendent, in the loop. Thank you.
Before Dave goes, is there any way where he mentioned the leaketh, the roof is leaking, that we could get an estimate ish or a time frame to plug whatever holes up there or there?
I will get that done.
Yeah, the bomb. Thank you, Dave.
Dave, you might want to have him take a look at the town office building too.
Dave,
While you're at it.
Dave, while you're there, when we were talking to Elaine, I don't know if she was talking about which place she was talking about, either the Bullet House or the fire station. She mentioned something about the stairs. Margaret, do you remember which one that she was talking about?
Bullard House,
Oh, was it the Bullard
the
House?
stairs to the
Okay.
basement.
All right.
Very, very hazardous.
Okay.
Was it
All right,
the
never mind.
basement?
Yeah, it's a scary.
Oh, no, she was talking about the stairs in the fire station.
I thought
too.
she was talking about it. So Dave, she said as she was going up the stairs, it was fine. But when she was coming down, I guess there's, I don't know, like a piece of wood or something that she almost fell. So while you're in
Okay,
there. if you
Elaine's
could-
back. Elaine, if you want to open
Oh.
up your microphone, you can talk to them about it.
Elaine, which stairs was it? Because we want to make sure that while Dave's poking around, he pokes around at more things.
That landing, you know, as you're, I didn't notice it going up the stairs, but when we were coming down the stairs, it's like a soft spot in the landing,
Which building?
in the firehouse.
Okay. Dave,
Okay,
can you take a look?
I'll look
I
at that.
don't really remember what it looked like, but it was squishy. Okay.
It held me up today.
if the roof's
Maybe
leaking,
my foot is smaller. Okay, I'm out.
all right.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Elaine.
Okay. We need to move on, I guess. We've got a consultant from Cook and Company to talk about health benefits.
Hi, Jill. Board members, this is Jill Gallant-Shaw, Vice President of Cook and
Yeah.
Company. Dennis and I, Mary, could you please promote Dennis as well? Dennis and I have met with Jill regarding the services the town requested in the RFP. We did reach out to 4 consultants. We received a quote from Cook and Company, and Dennis and I both recommend that the board authorize executing a contract with Cook and Company to provide the services outlined in the RFP. So, welcome, Jill.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. It's nice to meet all of you.
Nice to meet you.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. All right. Did you want to give any kind of question? Do you want to give any kind of presentation, or should we just go with the questions?
I'd be happy to kind of just give you a little bit of background information and introduce myself, and so that you can have a better feel for who we are at Cook and Company and what you'll be getting when you work with us. So I can just give you a little bit of information on my personal background.
Sure.
Sure, great. And I'm happy to take any questions also. So I've been working in the healthcare industry going on 20 years now, and about 12 of those years have been dedicated to municipal healthcare. So I'm very closely understanding the issues that are going on in Massachusetts municipalities. I've actually been working with Cook and Company for going on 3 years as a consultant. And prior to those 3 years, I was working with the Maya Health Insurance Trust. So I worked actually with the town of Berlin, and I think Dennis Fairbay can vouch for my my work ethic, having worked with you for probably about 9 years.
Yep.
Hi, Dennis.
Right.
And so I am familiar with some of the challenges that the town faces, and I'm also very familiar with the plans that you have, the region that you're in, and I'm very understanding of how the Maya Health Trust works, how things are rated, how the underwriting process works, and their partnership with Blue Cross Blue Shield. So I was excited to respond to your request for quote because I felt like it was a continuation of services. However, the difference with the role that I play now is Cook and Company is a non-biased party. So, you know, you're hiring me as a consultant to do what is best for the town. So I in no way have any allegiance to Blue Cross or Maya or any other carriers. My role really is to investigate and research and analyze your situation and how it compares in the marketplace, and then put forth the best recommendation for what's the best fit for the town and for the employees of the town. And so Cook and Company has been around for, well, let's see, over 30 years, since 1981. It is a privately owned business on the South Shore. And it's actually recently was purchased by Sue Shalou, who has been there for 31 years. And so the ownership, Mr. Cook, who originally owned the company, he sold it many years ago, and now Sue is the happy owner of Cook and Company. And she hired me because someone actually retired, and she thought I would be a good fit for the company, and it's been great so far. So that's a little bit of background. Really all we do at Cook and Company is work with Massachusetts municipalities. That's our sole job, is to do health plan management and consulting. We do some brokering, but in this situation with the town of Berlin and your request for quote, you know, my role would be as a consultant. And again, I have no skin in the game as far as where your placement of coverage is. It's really, my job is to do what is best for you and your employees. So that's really what you're going to be getting with Cook and Company.
Okay.
And I'm happy to take any questions.
And I will ask the board now if they have any questions.
Dennis and Margaret, I think this is more for you, nothing against Jill. Who qualifies and doesn't qualify for health insurances? That's out of scope of this particular project, correct?
Dennis, would you like to answer that?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You really need legal, I believe, opinion. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
it does, it cuts in and out a little bit, but yes.
Yep. As far as people that shouldn't get benefits, was that kind of what?
Well, who qualifies in as for example, you know, somebody like Lisa, who I replaced, you know, her family took a hit because she was now, quote, eligible for health insurance. It caused problems. And the idea that someone who is in theory working, let's say 2 or 3 hours a week, you know, is getting health insurance, how do we determine who gets and who doesn't get health insurance? Because
Well, I
obviously
think,
one way to control costs is also limit the number of people who get it. But I love to make sure all of our full-time employees and most of our part-times get it.
well, you'd limit it to people that work 20 hours or more. And correct me if I'm wrong, Jill. If we were in the GIC, it's 19 something hours, but
19.
around, and eliminate anyone who's elected who doesn't work 20 hours or more, which right now is the town clerk works 20 hours.
She's 20 hours a week.
Yep.
And just phase it
It's
in.
fine. Yep.
Excuse me, and I'll
Okay.
add to what Dennis is saying. You know, with respect to the town of Berlin has offered elected board and committee members, elected officials, health benefits through the town. A determination on that would have to be brought to the board for a decision at some point, either during this process or after this process, part of this process, as to how the town moves forward. I think if I understand your question correctly, I think that's what you're asking. How do we determine, where's that threshold?
Does that answer your question, Scott?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
And through the chair, Jill, Peg Stone is the one that emailed you the question.
Yes, thank you, Jill. I appreciate that.
My pleasure, Peg.
Well, because I came from a long line, many, many years also being in health and benefits. So when we started to talk about this, you know, my ears started to perk up about how we could merge with other, merge, I guess, with other towns approximately our size, bigger buying power, you know, what are the offerings, you know, that you guys bring, you know, how often have you worked with towns as small as ours, you know, with our tiny population. So I was just looking at all your answers, so I very much appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure thing.
Did she answer all of your questions, Peg?
She did, and she was awesome. I mean, the only one that wasn't there was, see, Jill, this will tell you that I have been in the industry for a while. When you start talking about carrier files, you know, see, she's shaking. She's like, yep, don't want to go there. So no, again, just having come from that line of work and understanding all the problems with carrier files and issues and how it gets wonky with people's pay and, oh my God, I'm in this plan, but I meant to go in this plan. So no, I'm all good.
Great.
All right. So Scott, any other questions?
No, I think it was a decent proposal. I look forward to seeing what we can do.
Okay.
My years on FinCom, Dennis and I had many conversations about how to try to figure out a way to do health insurance sort of better. I mean, as I point out a couple of times, that health insurance and retirement now account for almost 10% of our budget. So, you know, trying to control these costs helps us control the overall cost and spending of the town.
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually I think all of the information that was put in the drive for the board members answered my questions too. So I really don't have any questions. So if there are no questions, then I guess I would entertain a motion to vote the contract.
Chris, can I add one thing?
Sure.
One of the side, hopefully results would be to also come up with some kind of affordable retirement plan. So that will be on the back burner, but move towards the front as we go through looking at the cost savings we hope to get. I
Yes.
just throw that out there to you.
So,
Yeah.
go ahead, Chris, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I agree. I think it's on the back burner. I think if we can figure out a way to make a savings that would help in order to do that, I think we could move it towards the front burner.
Yep.
So Dennis, will we hear from you and Jill often as to progress, issues, road bumps, that you're running into, what you're finding? Margaret's shaking her head, yes. She's smiling too.
Jill.
Okay.
I can speak to that. So this is really a consultative process.
Mhm.
There's a large list of questions and issues that the town would like to have addressed, and those things take time. But in doing analysis and discovering where you're at and what your options are, you're going to be, the tools that are going to be available to you will help you deal with all of those issues. But it is more of a long-term strategy. So, you look at, you prioritize what you need to do right off the bat. And that, in my case, would be looking, gathering your information and looking at your plans and your rates and your rate history, and simply just comparing it to what else is out there to make sure that you're in the right place. That's the first step. And then if you're not in the right place, or if we can maybe find a better option, then we explore those options. And so it sort of is a long-term process. So the contract is for 1 year. And I think we can accomplish an awful lot in a year. But certainly happy to work with you as long as you need me.
No, don't say that. We don't let people go.
Through the chair, my hope is that this can be an ongoing consulting relationship to work with our IAC to review our premiums, our plan design on an annual basis, make sure we're always in the right place, getting the strongest benefits for the most cost efficient, with the most cost efficient package.
Okay.
I am going to be drafting the contract for the board's information. So my hope is that by next week, we will have had it reviewed. We will review it. We'll review it with Jill, get it to the board for an initial review, and have it ready for the board to sign next Monday night.
Okay.
Good.
So we need to make a motion to approve the contract.
Let's make a motion to approve Jill and bring her on board.
I'll second.
Okay. Then I would say we take a vote. Keith, aye.
Stone eye.
Hawkins, aye.
That's unanimous.
Thank you,
Congratulations.
Jill.
Congratulations.
Aboard.
Congratulations. Welcome aboard.
Working with all of you.
Look forward to it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great night.
You too.
You too.
Hi, Dennis.
How we doing?
Bye. Thanks.
Thanks, Dennis.
Thanks.
Yep.
All right. I think we're down to town administrator report.
Oh, we've probably covered a lot that's on here
Yeah.
tonight. Something new came across today. Mass DPH is going to be issuing a COVID-19 community impact survey. So I'm going to work with Mary to get that notice out on our website. It's for anyone and everyone to complete. It addresses issues of social justice. It addresses issues of economic impact due to COVID, et cetera. So it's going to be useful, I think, for people to fill out. So we'll work on getting that out. That just came across today. The HR comp and class plan and policies and procedures updates. Sandy, the consultant, reached out to me last week. She wanted to emphasize that the plan that the board and personnel committee was introduced to back in August is still in draft form. And it can be changed. So she wanted to assure the board and personnel committee that changes can be made based on the questions and comments that have been submitted to her from the board and the personnel committee. I'm meeting with her this week on those questions and comments that we emailed her. COVID-19 reporting. So we have a deadline of this Thursday, the 25th, to submit all of our FY20 COVID-related expenses for reimbursement through the Coronavirus Relief Fund. I did receive an informal request from Berlin-Boylston School District asking if the town might authorize the district to be designated as municipal sub-grantees. I would like to attempt to assist the school district, but I think first as a town, we need to know where their other sources of funding are and what they have funded and what they still need. It's going to, in order for them to be designated a sub-grantee under our state funds, we would need the separate authorization, Chris, that you had signed early on in this process to get the coronavirus relief funding. It's going to require separate municipal tracking of the school district's expenses. So there is going to need to be additional staff support. We're going to need additional resources to track the school's expenses. So I'm waiting to hear more on that, and I'll report to you once I get that information to see if the school is going to remain interested in doing that. I don't know if this was discussed when the assessors, when Kevin and Molly were here earlier, but there is a vacancy on the elected Board of Assessors. Mary is working on doing a posting of that vacancy, asking that people who are interested submit an application to the board and the Board of Assessors, because both boards need to meet jointly to fill the vacancy on a temporary basis until the next municipal election. We're going to be talking about special town meeting in a little bit, but there are some logistical challenges with regard to location for a special town meeting in the fall. It's not going to be easy for the schools to accommodate us. In fact, they have very limited availability. So today I actually submitted a request to the Commissioner of DPH to authorize or to exempt the town offices in the public safety complex, exempt them from the requirements in order number 46, limiting gatherings indoors. If they would exempt our building, we could utilize different areas of this building in order to hold a special town meeting. Then there'll still be logistical challenges with cable, with running the meeting. We may have to use the fire base. So I'm just waiting to hear back from DPH first on that. Ambulance service and billing, you're going to be meeting with the chief next week on his monthly report, but tremendous progress has been made on the outstanding ambulance receivables from Comstar, the town's former ambulance billing service. June has actually submitted a pile of old collectibles to the collections agency to proceed with collections on those items. So that is a very, very big step in this process. That's cleaning up old stuff. And not only that, kudos to the fire department, the chief and Sharon and Deputy Chief Desitel for staying on current collectibles. They've got a process that's been established and are following that process to remain in good communication with our ambulance billing company. We are working out all the details. I've prepared a checklist. I've drafted a checklist for the administrative procedures relative to ambulance billing. We've talked about policy amendments so that a policy on an ongoing basis can be understandable and easy to follow, easy to read for the fire department and any other stakeholders in that process. So I'm sure Chief will give you an update next week, and the board should expect policy amendments in the very near future. The Laura property, I think this was mentioned.
Sorry, Margaret.
Oh, yes, go ahead, Scott.
When the chief does his presentation each month, if we could get a like, as part of it, we have billed through X date, so that we know how the bills are going. And I can't off the top of my head, but some sort of where we are with like receivables and managing denials, that sort of stuff. I don't have a good stat to just throw in a report that I could look at every month when he presents, but if that could be part of it, that would be great.
Okay, we're looking at doing write-offs on a regular annual basis. We're also looking at our core team, administrative core team, meeting on a quarterly basis to review what's outstanding and stuff, so we'll be able to track them carefully. I'll ask the chief, I'll talk with June too, to see how we can most easily get you that information.
Yeah.
And Margaret, that guide that's out there shouldn't be all that hard to update. We did it, when I came on the board, it was hanging around.
This is in
So it's like-
2018?
yeah, it's like almost 3 years old this coming May.
Yeah, we have a policy that's from another community that's more in a narrative form and step by step. And not only that, we have learned, well, at least I've learned, that Coastal, our billing company that we contract with, actually does the hardship calculations. We don't have to get involved in in the hardship determinations. So there are some things that we just can alleviate our responsibility on, which would be helpful for us. So we're putting that together, and we'll get it, the chief will get it to the board. Lower property. Concom is interested in acquiring the lower property. I have received a draft capital request form from the chair of the committee, and I have given him feedback on the form as to additional information to include on it. Concom is also interested in reintroducing a wetlands bylaw, and I have recommended that Concom begin immediately. I'm assuming it's for the annual town meeting, not for special, because time is very short now for a fall special. But I have recommended that Concom begin the process of community outreach, community information sessions, and involving all stakeholders in the wetlands bylaw development process to make sure everyone understands what's contained in the bylaw and what the impacts on them will be.
And that didn't look all that different from the one that was sort of almost wholesale rejected only a couple of years ago. The biggest problem, if I remembered from that meeting, was the 100-foot setback and just the volume of properties that now means that people can't develop. And so I'd like to sort of hear what has been done to address those concerns or alleviate those concerns, because to just rehash the same arguments and have it fail again that it did last time, I'm not in favor of.
Thanks, many thanks to Mary, because Mary recalled all of this back from when this was last brought up, and she mentioned the fact that they're going to have to produce a map. It's going to be important to produce a map to show the impacts on the various parcels throughout town. So I've passed that along to Concom as well. On the Tolman property, Fuss and O'Neill is finalizing the phase 1 report if they haven't already. I do anticipate next steps, including a meeting with DEP and EPA to discuss coordination of the hazardous materials cleanup or further assessments on the property. Meanwhile, Dave Smith, our highway superintendent, has received a written estimate of $100,000 to demolish and remove the non-hazardous materials from the property. So we are going to prepare an FY22 capital request form that would address cleanup of the non-hazardous materials on the property.
And what benefit of the town is it to clean up the non-hazardous materials? Because aren't we just improving someone else's property?
Well, this is kind of an issue that has been on. I wish Dennis was still here. Right. This is a long-term issue with a town with a tax-taking property. Yep. This property would be taken, but the town has avoided it because of the issues on the property. So that's what we're looking to do. Looking to take it and clean it up so we don't have the liability. And hopefully do something productive with the land.
Yeah.
Scott, I'll have to give you a copy of the application that we submitted to CMRPC. We had gotten feedback on potential reuse of that property. So we've gotten feedback from various boards and committees. I'll share that with you so you can see what the ideas were. And finally, shared streets and spaces. Chief brought this up at your coffee talk the other night. The Traffic Safety Advisory Committee at its meeting last week talked about submitting an application, a grant application for a pilot project at Central, Carter, and Woodward to create a different flow of traffic, creating one-way, again, it's a pilot project, creating one-way travel on Carter and Woodward in order to increase pedestrian and bicycle access along those roads. The pilot project would encompass using temporary barriers to create a quasi sidewalk area where pedestrians would be protected, a bicycle lane on Carter Street and around to Woodward, flashing beacons for crossing from Carter and Woodward over to Central Street, and also a couple of picnic tables, a few benches. The grant, I'm guessing the grant application, the cost estimate is probably going to be in the $65,000 to $75,000 range to get this pilot program up and running. So again, this is not long-term. It's essentially determining whether or not it makes sense to do these changes on a permanent basis. So that grant application is due tomorrow, so we'll be submitting that tomorrow. And that's all I have for tonight.
All right. Questions for Margaret? Or we already asked them.
Just a lot of them.
All right, I'll get you the feedback on the Tolman property.
Yeah, can you send that to me too, Margaret?
I sure, yeah, I'll send it to everybody.
Okay. So we'll move on to old business. We have coffee talk on the agenda. We just had a coffee talk last week. And was there any feedback anybody wanted to share?
No, I mean, I wish that we could somehow
Okay.
increase participation. You know, I think that was probably our lowest one, even from our first one. So I think that for the next one that's coming up, December, that we really need to start pushing heavy on it. You know, unfortunately, the Blinky sign was out of, was not in use. The, Lions Club had a little difficulty getting our message up. I didn't see anything in the item. We put it on Facebook, but again, if people aren't technologically sound and don't go out there, it doesn't matter. So that was just my one feedback, is that we really need to publicize this information and get it out there. Maybe invite Jan. Again, she came to our last one when we were in the town hall, so maybe we do it again.
Okay. Do we want to go ahead and schedule a December and a March, or?
I would think of trying to schedule a March and not necessarily do one in December. We would have just had a town meeting not more than a week or so earlier. It is the middle of the holidays. I'd almost take that one off, but I don't feel super strongly about that.
You don't want to do like, oh, too bad it'll probably be virtual. I was going to say you could do Christmas cookies.
Right, and we could time it with Christmas in Berlin, so it sort of gets advertised as that whole package. But
yeah, and we could share our cookies anyway online.
The recipes anyway.
Well, yeah. June really could all make us a batch, and she can leave them down in the entryway. We can pick them.
We could do it like the Emmys. We just have someone in a hazmat suit drive around from house to house dropping off.
Just drop them off.
If you attend coffee talk, someone will stop by your house and drop off cookies.
Oh, well, what do you think, Peg? Do you want to do one in December, or do you want to just do a March? Or we could maybe even make it a January or February.
Yeah, maybe the beginning of the year. See where we ended up after elections and any impact on the town of Berlin. And, we'll be a couple, July, August, September, October. We'll be 2 quarters in, fiscal.
And we will be out of 2020.
Yes,
We'll
and
be
we'll
out of
be out of
2020.
2020.
Goodbye.
Yes,
Yes.
so I would probably not want to wait until March and schedule one like mid-January. Because then everyone's settled down, the holidays are over.
Yep.
You know, kids are back at school. Well, they're in school now. So,
We could slide them a tiny bit, and if we did one in January, we could do another one sort of in late March, early April, and start pushing the town meeting at that point too.
Right.
yeah.
So do you want to go ahead and schedule something for mid-January?
You can pick a
14th?
day. Yeah, pick a
14th?
day, any day. There you go.
It's just where I happen to land on my calendar when I was scrolling through January, so.
There you go.
All right. Looks good to me. And then we can talk about, would you prefer just to go ahead and schedule something else?
I think,
Well, April is a good time to discuss town meeting. It's a good time to have that pre-town meeting forum.
Yeah.
Well, yes, so, and we probably will have the pre-town meeting forum, will we not? About the different articles and that kind of
I
thing?
thought that went well. It was much later than we anticipated this year, but next year it would be in April, so that would be good.
right, so if we did like, could we do it on tax day, April 15th?
You think we'd have good attendance?
Well, I'm trying to figure out a day early enough that forces like we have to have the town report out and in people's hands for them to be able to send coffee talk. My sort of like, we really can't be having these reports show up in people's homes 3 days before town meeting, expect people to be well informed by the time town meeting starts.
Yeah. So what do you think? 15th?
I think we can tentatively say the 15th, and we'll talk about it as we get closer, and if we have to slide it a week forward because the town report's already been out in everyone's hands for 2 weeks by then, because everyone
Okay.
got it on April 1st.
All right. Let's put it on the calendar. Okay.
Perfect. Tax day.
Tax day, yeah.
Tax day coffee talk.
All right. So the next thing on our agenda is the 2020 Fall Special Town Meeting.
Oh, special. I've got the list in your packet again tonight. Again, the challenge, one of the bigger challenges we're seeing at this point is location.
Yeah.
Fortunately, it's still early. There's still time to plan, but we did get some feedback. Just to report to the board, we did get some feedback from the school district. I think both Berlin Memorial School and Tohoto would be able to allow us to use space, but on Thanksgiving weekend, on Friday night or the Saturday following Thanksgiving. And I know historically, that's always been a huge challenge with people traveling. It's not usually the best time to schedule a town meeting, but with COVID, people might be around a little more. If we had a little more flexibility and were allowed to have it here, for example, or another location in town, we'd have more flexibility with date.
Yeah, Margaret, I think if you go out of town, even if you try to move it to Tohoto or Assabet, people aren't going to go. You know, it's
That's how I
just,
feel.
yeah,
Yeah.
you know, it's a hop, skip, and a jump down to the town hall or down to the memorial school. Everyone knows where to go, where to park, you know, et cetera, et cetera. No, I wouldn't be too comfortable with moving it to
Yeah.
Tohoto,
And what about Thanksgiving weekend?
Well, I mean, that's the problem. So they're talking the 28th, that Saturday?
Yes, either the Friday night or Saturday. In both cases, the custodian would have to be paid overtime.
And I think that maybe the best bet is to try to stick with the 30th and see if you can get the firehouse or the bay exempt.
Okay.
Does that sound good to you, Scott?
Is the bay at the highway barn bigger?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Is there ample parking? That's what you have to look
Is
at
there
as
ample
well.
heat or is it electric heat?
Don't get me started. Mary, don't go there. Don't go there on heat.
I've already submitted a request to DPH. We'll see what they
Yep.
say.
Okay, why don't you keep us posted on that?
How stuck are we on that week? Can we go out a week? Can we do the first week in December? Was there a problem with that?
For the
We
schools.
checked with Eloise on that, and I can't remember her
I
feedback.
know she really preferred the 30th on it, but if,
She did prefer, that was her first choice. Well,
Right.
of the choices she was given, that was her preference.
Yeah,
Was
and
it-
Margaret, I bring it up again. Do we absolutely have to have it on a Monday? I mean, if we can't go Thanksgiving weekend, because, I mean, people may travel, more than likely, and I really don't want to have a town meeting where a bunch of folks that would normally come aren't going to be there. Could you push it to the 5th? You know, which is the
I'm not
fourth
wed to any
Saturday?
specific
Yeah, I
date.
don't. Yeah, I mean, I know the 5th is usually errand day and people are out and about, but, you know, I think we need to have
Is that,
options.
It's a Saturday, the 5th.
is that Christmas in Berlin type of thing?
Are they even going to have a Christmas in Berlin
I
again
have
this year?
no idea.
No, I don't think so.
No, I mean, last year it was minimal. I mean, you know, Amy and I stood in the center of town and waved. You know, and people, she was my elf and I was the tree, and that was about it for,
That's
you know, Christmas in Berlin festivities.
Well, I don't know. If they do have something, it would be on Saturday the 5th. It's usually the first Saturday.
Well, then it'd be a great day. People are out and about mulling around the town. Just
Right,
have a real quick town
Part of
meeting.
celebrating Christmas is go to
Yes.
town meeting.
That's right.
Well, it might,
And exchange.
might
Have
actually interfere.
pre-bagged Christmas cookies for a cookie exchange.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it could actually interfere though if they do like the tree lighting or something at the church. That would be the only.
Well, Chris, I can tell you, we did the tree lighting at the church last December 5th, and it took me longer to get dressed as the tree than it did for them to light the trees. It took all of 5 minutes around 5 o'clock. So I wouldn't let that be
That would be our incentive to get the meeting done if it started at noon to be done by 5 o'clock.
correct.
Well, unless you wanted to go with the 7th, which is a Monday, and it's sort of a tradition.
I think we look at options. I don't think we just keep it to traditions, that we look at weekends.
No,
But
I'm
somehow-
just saying it's traditional for some people,
No.
not
yeah.
necessarily
Oh.
me.
Yeah.
We don't have the ability to change regular town meeting date easily because that's written into the bylaws, correct?
Right.
And so if we're going to
For
experiment, we can-
annual only.
for annual only, right? But
Mhm.
because we can't experiment with that one, the only time we can experiment with different days is special town meetings.
That is correct.
Yep.
That is correct.
Well, if so, the both of you are with the thinking Saturday the 5th.
Yeah.
Can we pull something off at like noon to 5? Because I think the advantage of doing a Saturday is you don't have it start at 7 o'clock at night. You know,
Yep.
you ruin the daytime and not the whole night.
Okay.
Mhm.
It's also potentially easier to find childcare coverage. Have your kids play with other kids for a couple hours. Not
In a
diminishing
socially
what it takes.
distant way.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, and that's, we're not getting into Hanukkah at that point. That doesn't begin, I think, until the 10th, according to my calendar. So
Well, why don't we just at least say tentatively that's the date then?
December
And,
5th.
Yeah.
Find out about the exempt issue and
Yep. I will also ask Berlin Memorial School if there's any chance we could get into the school on that particular Saturday. Not just, it's not Thanksgiving weekend, but maybe.
yeah.
Okay. So December 5th, Saturday. Okay.
See, December 5th is International Volunteer Day. See,
Ooh.
it's also International Ninja Day and National Repeal Day. So I don't know what that
Peg
means.
could dress like underdog.
Hey now. That's coming. That's coming. Don't spoil it. Mhm.
National
Okay.
Anyway,
All right. Tentative.
that's what the international search engine has told me that is on that day.
Boy.
Mary has a.
Then,
If you did Saturday the 5th, voter registration would go up till 2 days before Thanksgiving. I think it would go up until Wednesday, the 25th of November for
The day
Eloise.
before, the day before
Yeah.
Thanksgiving.
Probably need to,
2 days before.
probably ought to run it by
No,
Eloise, too.
1 day before. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, we should run it by Eloise and Barry.
Yeah. Okay. Um,
Because I'd like to settle on a date relatively soon so we can start, even if we don't have formal warrants, to just the informal
Mhm.
chats that please reserve this date for town meeting. You know, the type of things are going to be capital items and a couple of things that were left over from annual town meeting that we didn't get to because
Margaret, you might want to check with the school too, make sure that there's no basketball games going on, because I think
Yeah.
that teams start playing down there on the weekends or on Saturday.
Okay.
I don't know if there is any basketball right now, though.
I don't know, but I don't know what's planned.
Orders, I'll check on that. Does the board have any comments on any of the items on the list at this point, or do we just?
Did it change? It didn't change since last week, did it?
No, it did not.
Okay.
I think the list is too long, but I haven't found ones that I really think don't belong. So
There are some that we may be able to pull off. There might be a couple of housekeeping ones that we may be able to pull off.
And is the planning board still planning to go through with all of
I
that?
have to confirm with the planning board if they're, if they
That would
plan on
sure
going
benefit.
through with all of the proposed amendments.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a lot.
It is a big one.
Okay. All right. Shall we move on? So does the board want to talk now about our goals and objectives?
I don't have a need at the moment.
Well, where are we with them? What are we doing with them? Is that like the whole update? I mean, have we
This is
decided
all-
on a final list of ones that we're doing?
Well, let me tell you what I did today. I actually color coded them so it was easier to see where we agreed as far as up the top the list. So I don't know if you want me to send it to you. I could have sent it to you, but I just did it today.
I know we should be working on the other pieces of it. I have not
The Bullard
had
House.
a chance to work on
Suzanne,
it.
we met at
Mary
the
hasn't
Bullet
had
House
a-
today. We worked
Yeah,
on something.
Yep, we did. So the Bullard House was towards the top. Setting up a funding mechanism to avoid the loss of 40Bs.
See, I think that's one that sort of find an agenda item for us because like the Bullard House in the center of town already have some constituents who are working on it. And it's just, I think our role is as much to stay out of their way and keep pushing them a little bit. Where something like the 40B is important to the town, but doesn't have like an automatic driver.
Right. Then one of the things was investigate the need to make changes to the River Bridge development, which I think we're already doing. We are doing that, or Margaret is.
In fact, the principals of River Bridge are going to be meeting with the planning board tomorrow night on a proposal for development. So just keeping that on your radar.
Okay, I got it on my calendar. So I don't know whether you want to send it to me, or have me send this to you, or if you want to talk more about it tonight. I know it's getting a little bit late.
If you put them together, I mean, I'd be curious because I don't want to stop doing these.
Yeah.
You know, if we stop now, then there's always going to be a next week, next week. So if you want to send your color code items along, and then we give it a week, and then we meet next week and decide and vote and boom, and then off we go.
Okay. All right. I mean, it's pretty easy to see. It's more easy to see when they're color coded. That's all.
Okay. Good.
I was actually starting to use a number ranking thing, you know, where they fell on the list, and
Oh, I know.
and then I got sidetracked. So
Okay, well, I'll send that along, and then it might be easier to see which ones sort of go to the top and which ones sort of fall off the list or whatever. So then we'll move on to new business, which to discuss proposed FY21 capital requests.
So these are the items that actually show on the list of possible special town meeting articles. Several capital requests for FY21 were approved at the annual town meeting. The list that we have left here is contract tree removal, possibility of funding capital stabilization, town offices air handler replacement, and the land acquisition, the Laura property. That's what we have so
What happened to
far.
hot top topic? Hot.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's right at the top of the list. That's hot, yeah, hot top is first, yeah.
And if I remember correctly, that's money we set aside every year that goes into the same fund. So it keeps growing the fund, right?
That's correct, yes. And the reason it's done through the special article is because it can carry forward.
Right. And so is there do we know the number that's in that fund right now? Because I mean, how critical is getting 80,000 more in there? Do we just skip this horrible year and call that a savings because we have some extra that's built up over time?
I can ask, I can check with June on the current balance of the hot top.
And to give me some time to adjust, what is the sticker shock for the lower property? Ballpark, do we have? No?
Oh, gosh.
I think you had something, did
It
you?
was, if they
something?
sold off, yeah, if they sold off the 2 lots, it was 600 something thousand.
Yeah,
But it was funded through a variety of funding sources.
Still, the town would need to kick in a substantial amount of money.
Right, and my understanding, based on our prior conversations, that there would be a concerted effort to put in a land grant application to reimburse some of the Concom's open space fund and our free cash. But it is a reimbursement grant.
What is the status of the CPA? Do we actually have a committee that can put together?
No, not yet, because the bylaw hasn't been approved yet. So, and there can be no official actions until the committee bylaw is approved. That's expected though in another month. So
But this is the same weight that like changes our name from selectmen to select board, even though the town's voted on it twice and we've been waiting on this for like 17 years.
yes, it's the same one. Just got to hear from the AG.
Big brother. No, it's the nanny state, right? Has to like approve what we decide to do in our town. And these will all get FinCom votes. They probably already have FinCom votes. And do they already have select board votes that would have happened prior to annual town meeting?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, Scott?
The capital items for fiscal year 21 for special town meeting, I assume they already have FinCom votes. Do they already have select board votes that would have happened?
The board had, yes, Capital Planning Committee met with the board early in the spring, and the board supported the inclusion of those capital items. They had been presented to Finance Committee, we went through everything, and then just had to trim down projects.
okay. Any other comments, questions?
I just received information from June that there is approximately $156,000 in the hot top account.
Does he use approximately 80,000 a year?
Yeah, we've been putting 80,000 a year in for a long period of time.
Right. But does he use that every year or no?
70,000.
It
Not if
varies.
there's 150,000 in the account, he's not using
Oh, wait a
80,000
minute.
every year.
Oh, okay.
It builds up slowly over time and it says we didn't put anything in this year.
Would June be willing to be promoted to clarify? I just got another number.
Here she comes.
She has to unmute before she can say anything.
Oh, look at her.
Really?
Trying to undo my backgrounds.
Hi. All right, I gotta make you small so I can see my screen.
Yep.
Let's see. He still has from 18. He still has 16,000. From 18, he received 70,000, and 19, he received 70,000. So that's approximately the 156 and some change.
Oh, so it's cumulative over over those 3 years?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
there's 3 separate special articles right now that are open.
And he's asking for 80,000 more?
And he has not used any Chapter 90 money, so it would be rolled all into one project he could do, or multiples, so.
So we could do a couple of miles of roadway with all of it, including Chapter 90,
he could, yeah.
potentially.
Yes, possibly.
So I can remember Dave, too bad if we didn't ask this earlier in the meeting when he was on, but whether or not he feels a need for this. Does he already have roads already identified that he's going to pave between now and May town meeting? That he's going to use up all of that money and need 80,000 more?
Well, I know this will be on a future agenda again to talk about the capital.
Yep.
Maybe we could get some information before then.
Yeah, because Margaret, if you remember many finance meetings back, didn't we find out that money was inappropriately used for the town barn that should have been spent on roads?
No, it wasn't inappropriate.
No, it wasn't
used.
inappropriate. It was doable. He got it approved prior to.
Yeah.
To pave the parking lot.
That was Chapter 90 money.
Yeah. And from this point on, we always advocate for using it on public ways. Traveled ways.
I think they even checked though to make sure it was okay, and
It was,
Yeah,
it
they
was
did.
pre-approved.
They had to have
Yeah.
because they
It got
wouldn't have.
pre-approved before it was used.
right.
Yeah.
We know the plan at one point was if they had extra money at any year, they'd do sections of South Cemetery Road, which are, gravel and other parts, and they've done pieces of it here and there. It looked like at one point they marked to do some more there this year, and it just didn't seem to have happened.
There's more that they had planned to do this year. Because I think they have to use the money up this year.
Right.
Can we ask Dave if his 80,000 request is in addition to what he already has in the bank, or if he can remove that?
Yes.
It'll only save 30 seconds at town meeting, but it might also save $80,000 in free cash so we can do something that might be more pressing for the town.
That's right. Okay.
Thank you, June.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
June.
Bye, June.
Bye.
Joe, are we good with the capital requests? Okay. Then we'll move on to board questions and comments.
All right, I got a few. I'll go quick. So I had reached out to Recreation in regards to trunk or treat again and scarecrow posting on the church lawn in the center of town. Same with pumpkin decorating. Julie Lee, the chairman of Rec, has the application. So I'm hoping that she can just cut and paste from last year's. Hats off again to Margaret and Mary, who went through way too much pain last year to do that. So I'm hoping that Julie can move on that. I received an email from Tom Andrew today that they will be talking about it at the church tonight. He doesn't anticipate any issues with it. Obviously, any trunk or treat needs to follow whatever the state says. Again, Peg stealing stuff from other newspapers. There's a nice little article in there about Shrewsbury Commons and how they did their
That's cute.
scarecrows. So, I'm kind of hoping that if Berlin goes that way, that we can also do something again, once again, to honor our essential workers. So that's one. You all were on an email over the weekend about the town cleanup version 2.0. Oh, I should have asked Dave about that. Crap. Tentatively scheduled for October 17th, starting at 8:30. Bunches of questions that have been floating around in email. I'm sure there's more. Hopefully, Louise and somebody else from Conservation can come to our meeting next week and talk a little bit more about that. And then, last week we had talked about volunteers. We continue to talk about volunteers, the need for the town. Margaret had thrown out there Captain Acton. So go ahead, Mary, post it. Wait, one minute. Come on, Mary, put it out there. Put it up.
You have to sing it though.
I am not singing it. I am not singing it.
All right, what are we doing here?
All right. So, oh, wait a minute.
I think
Hang
she's
on.
trying to post something. Oh, she's finding the music? Wait a minute.
Yeah, hang on.
Oh, the suspense is killing me.
I know. There we go.
Oh, there you go. So Captain Acton did it on it was some tune that they had. So I thought that we could do it using the theme song to Underdog. So instead of, underdog, it goes volunteer, when there's words on it. So, there I am,
Yeah.
Captain, under volunteer dog or whatever.
That's a V. We'll call that a V.
We'll call that. a
That's
V.
right, yes.
Yes. So Margaret had reached out to Brittany. I don't think we've seen anything back to see if cable could do any type of public service announcement for the town. I mean, something cute to try and get it out there to do that. But no, I will not be singing. The new words to There's No Need to Fear. Volunteer is here for that. But so that's
I
on it.
have it in my head though. So you just said it, but I can hear you.
See, can't you? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're welcome. You're
right.
welcome.
There's no need to fear. Volunteer is here. Yeah, so I mean, it's kind of hokey. It's cute. Again, I have no pride. I don't care. I'll put it out there. I'll run around in a cape and a mask and stuff and see if we can just drum something up. Oh, that's one thing too. Again, Peg steals from papers. Nice article here about there's other communities that are also in the same boat as we are for lack of volunteers. So what I want to do is I'll write something up, pass it by all of you. Maybe we could get it out to Jan at the item to start getting Berlin in the paper, a little bit more than what we're doing. Maybe she could interview all of us, some of us, Margaret, whatever, and get that out there. So I'll get a write up to you shortly to talk about that, but I won't be talking to her about Underdog. So I'll just be talking about the volunteer stuff.
There was
Those are
there was a list we got of open positions that the select board appoints. I sent that out to my personal email list and got chastised for things that are missing from the list. And what was missing from the list was something I didn't promise, but are other appointments and other openings that are not appointed by select board.
Moderator appointments and others.
Yeah, moderator appointments, planning board appointments. I don't even know where some of the feedback I got came from, but I don't know how we get a good list of sort of all the openings in town, whether it's
That would be the
select
town
board
clerk's
appointed.
office.
Yeah.
It would be the town clerk's office, and she's otherwise occupied.
Yes.
Yeah.
Scott, maybe we can help a little bit there, but we will have to confer with the moderator and the planning board and other appointing authorities.
Right, and unless my email suddenly gets a flood of volunteers, I don't know how much they'll be clamoring on. Oh, Scott's email list is worth something or not. I don't know.
Thank you for trying.
Yep.
Well, I was going to talk about the vacancies on the Board of Selectmen appointed volunteer committees, but only to say, thank you for getting it out there.
Yeah.
Thank you for putting it on the webpage and Facebook and so on and so forth. And just to let people know out there that, yes, we're still looking for volunteers. So that was my comment, board comment.
I try to tell people that the more you volunteer, the less we're going to have paid staff do things. And, want those taxes to stay even, help out your town.
Yeah, there you go.
So maybe next week we can take a look at it. I just sent out the letter that I had. Let me know what you have for feedback. But
okay.
Again, we need to find multiple ways to get the call out there.
Meanwhile, we are trying, Mary is gathering information on policies, select board policies for filling board appointments, actually policies for recommending people to serve on boards and things like that. So there are a few examples out there. So we'll get something to the board in draft form very soon, just so we can move forward consistently.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else?
No.
Well,
I don't know. Nope.
Then I don't believe we have any reason for executive session this evening. So I would take a motion to adjourn.
See ya. How's that for a motion? Time to go.
I'll second it.
Chris gets to second something.
Yes, she does.
All right. Aye, aye, aye.
Aye, aye,
Aye,
aye.
aye, aye.
Aye, aye, aye.